You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hello, folks. Before we get too deep into this, I wanted to bring up just one thing real quick, and that is a question. I wondered if you liked free stuff. You like free guitar things? You like maybe free effects pedals? You like things like that? Well, if you do, you're in luck. You're already doing part of what you need to do to get in on some free gear. What am I talking about? Well, if you listen to a few episodes back, there was a special announcement around giveaways and free stuff and whatever. You can go there for all the deets, but the gist is, you listen to this podcast, you sign up for the Tone Mob newsletter, you answer the trivia question that comes out once a month, you're the first person to respond with the correct answer, you win whatever that month's prize is. And this month, the prize is a Mojo Hand Effects Colossus, which is a big, awesome, like distortion wall of destruction fuzz thing. It's very awesome, and it has a lot of features. We won't get into all that. You can look it up if you want to. That's the prize this month. And if you're listening to this on the day this episode drops, then a few days later, sometime this week, newsletter subscribers are going to get a trivia question emailed to them. And the first person to respond with the correct answer, which is based on something from the podcast that in the month that the question comes out. So one of the 4 episodes, they're going to win. They're going to win whatever the prize is. So make sure you go check out the special announcement for all the details and sign up for the newsletter, which if you just go to tonemob.com, there's a little tab that says join the mob. That's where you do it. Easy peasy. I email you once a week with show updates and things like that. And then once a month, we're giving away stuff. So make sure you check that out. That's the only way to get in is via the newsletter. I also must tell you about Gun Street Wiring Shop. Gun Street Wiring Shop. What in the world is that? Well, that is a company that upgrades the wiring harnesses in your guitars. So you've got some axes laying around. Maybe you're getting a little bored with them. They're not sparkling the way they used to. They're not cutting the mustard, so to speak. Well, this is an easy way to breathe in new life into some of your old guitars was by upgrading the electronics. And Sean and the team at Gun Street Wiring Shop are just the place to go. They have amazing customer service, amazing product, and if you don't see if they got something, what am I trying to say? Stop it. What I'm saying is, if you don't see what you need on the website, you can email them and you can get the custom harness of your dreams. So maybe you want something real crazy, maybe you want just a slight tweak to what they already offer. Email them, they will fix you up. Crazy, wild, mild, normal, just upgraded. They've got you. GunStreetWiringShop.com. Check them out. And of course, I would be a complete buffoon if I did not tell you about Sinusoid Pro Audio Couture, which is a word that I'm still not entirely certain that I am fancy enough to say in public, but I say it here because that's what it says. And also, you might not know what that means. So, Sinusoid makes the finest instrument cables on the market. We all play guitar. We all play various instruments. We need to plug into our pedal boards. We need to plug into our amplifiers. We gotta plug in. You can't plug in if you don't have a cable, especially if you don't have a cable that works. Guess what? Sinusoid guarantees their cables for 100 years. So any kind of cable you can think of. We got patch cables, we got speaker cables, we got mic cables, we got aux cables. So you want to crank some righteous jams in the car? Well, there you go. They've got a cable with a 100-year warranty, and it's made by the best people in the business. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the Soid boys. Check them out at sinusoid.com and build the custom cable of your dreams. Do it. You turkey. My next guest here doesn't really need much of an introduction. Frank has played in a lot of bands, and a lot of you will know him from the band My Chemical Romance, which obviously a lot of you listeners have heard of because we talk about it in the Facebook group on a semi-regular basis. So Frank is a true gentleman. We had an excellent chat, and I will not delay it any further by me blabbing. If you want to know more about him and his band, Google it. It's easy to find out. They were very influential for a lot of people, and the new stuff he is up to is just equally rad. So please do check it out, and we talk about it a little more in depth in the episode. But without further ado, here's an excellent conversation with Mr. Frank Iero. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast, show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Frank Iero from The Future Violence and My Chemical Romance. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so stoked about this.
Me too. And I appreciate you dealing with all of my technical abnormalities to try to get me on the show.
Hey, it's just one of those things. The internet is a wonderful, beautiful, awful thing sometimes, and we just gotta embrace it with all its flaws and whatever else it comes with, you know?
Agreed. So yeah, thank you so much, man. This is awesome. I'm psyched.
I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. I got good vibes. We're vibing good. I feel like this is gonna be a juicy one in all the right ways. But I do have to tell you something, which this might sound a little bit strange, but
okay.
You are the reason, or a big part of the reason, I should say. I was set down a goal a long time ago of getting a white Les Paul.
No way.
Yeah. Well, you were playing one in, I don't remember which video it was. Probably, I can't remember which video it was, but why can't I remember? It'll come to me. And you like smash this white Les Paul, and I was like, you know what? That looks so rad. I don't want to smash one, but I'd really like to own one. And then it set me down this path for years of trying all these different like Les Paul customs, and I was starting to think that maybe I didn't like them. Like I was like, oh, maybe. I mean, I play Les Pauls already, but like maybe I don't like the customs that well. I could never find one I liked until a couple years ago. Found an 81 Les Paul custom, and I just fell in love, and I was like, yes, the dream is now a reality.
That's
but
so
I'm not
amazing.
Gonna smash this one.
It's funny, man. Like I love that guitars have a soul. Like you can go out and be like, oh, I really love the way that looks, but it's almost like like when like Harry Potter finds his wand kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it doesn't blow your hair back, it's never going to really work for you. You know what I mean? And there's some that you have this relationship with that like it's like almost like a bad relationship where you fight all the time, and that just makes things like kind of hot and awesome. But then there's some that are just like butter that make, they work as hard as you work. And when that comes together, it's like, I finally found it. Like this is my sword in the stone, And
dude, yes,
I love it. So like, there's a story. I don't know if this is true. I don't know. I even if it's not true, I don't care. We'll just say it's true and want to believe it because it's such a great story. But the story goes that Tom Waits went into a guitar shop, right, in Los Angeles area, something like that. And he walked in, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's Tom Waits!" And he like went up to like this like big wall of guitars, and he picks this one up, and he looks at it, really stares at the headstock and turns it on its side. Sniffs the fretboard, never plays it, puts it back, leaves. Then like a week later, comes back, goes beelines directly to the same guitar, picks it up, kind of like looks at the headstock like in different ways, like turns it upside down. He smells like the sound hole and everything, and they're like, oh man, like he loves this guitar. What's going on? Couple weeks, right? Another time he comes back in, does the same thing. Finally, the store clerk comes up and has like enough courage to say, Mr. Waits, I'm a huge fan. Like I see that you keep coming in to play this guitar. Do you want to play this guitar? Do you want to plug it in or something? And Tom looks at me and goes, nah, ain't got no songs left in it, and leaves and never comes back.
Oh man, that seems like the most Tom Waits story ever, right?
Right? Doesn't it? Yeah, I know, but it's true. Like there's certain things where I like to have a large variety, because sometimes, you pick up an instrument and you try to write a song and it just doesn't work, but you can put that down and pick up something else that's maybe completely different, and all of a sudden it opens up a door. You play it in a different way. It makes you want to react differently, and it opens your mind somehow that songs can come if you just change the instrument sometimes, and that's huge for me. That's the way I've always worked. Where it's like, there's no songs in this one today.
That's a real thing. Like I don't know. I
It
don't
really
know
is.
like scientifically if it's provable, but there's too many people say the same thing. It's like this one has a story in it. This one has some songs in it. It's like there you pick it up and it's just there is something special about one, even if it's not like fully quantifiable. I think.
Oh, I totally feel the same way. And I feel like it's a lot easier sometimes with used or vintage equipment that's been kind of abused a little bit, and has soaked up the sweat and a little bit of maybe that you know that spirit of the previous players. But I found that too with brand new instruments, where maybe it's the wood, maybe it's like the living, breathing, like the tree. Experience something along the way. There's some sort of spiritual nature to, like, the forest it came from, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
totally.
either way, I only love instruments that have a personality, and that's so cool though that that you went for the white, because I felt the same way. I think where my obsession with the white Les Paul came from, like early on, was seeing Pete from the Bouncing Souls had a really, really old white Les Paul, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" The way it
Right.
looked, and it was just like battered and yellowed, and
Yes.
so when it was time to, like, guitar companies would come and be like, "Hey, would you like to play some guitars? We can help you out." That's what always was like, "Oh my God, yeah, send me a send me a white Les Paul," because I couldn't afford it before. So that's where that came about.
That's awesome. It's the yellow. The yellowing is it's so good. Like mine isn't white anymore. It's yellow. Like
Hmm.
and I got
Nice.
it that way. I didn't create the yellow, but I just I don't know. It's
That's
one of
okay.
those ones. It just came to it.
Either you make it or inherit the yellow. That's what you need. Especially too. 81's a great year. That's the year I was born. So I like instruments that were also born the same year.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I haven't pulled that off
Hmm.
yet. I need something from 88, and I'm not really sure in 88 like what kind of iconic, or really it doesn't have to be iconic, I guess, but what super interesting instrument came out in 88. I'm not really aware of anything.
Yeah. Hmm.
But like
When was the
those
Strat? Those 80s Strats.
oh,
You
like
know
the
you know what I'm talking about,
shredder
right?
ones?
The Strat, yeah, the Shredder ones, yeah.
That's a good call. Maybe that's the direction I need to go.
That it's a hard look to pull off, though. It really is.
I definitely
I feel
don't
like
have
you
the
then
pants
immediately have to
for
get
it.
new pants.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
I
that's the
don't have
thing.
the
Yeah,
pants for it at all.
yeah. You're like, these are this lime green Shredder guitar. I don't know. It just doesn't go with my pants.
It's kind of weird. I've had a weird thing with some of those pointy shredder guitars. Like I kind of want one, but I almost universally hate the necks on them. I like bigger necks, and
Uh huh.
I can't do
Yeah,
the
you
shredder
like the
necks.
chunky neck.
Yeah.
I recently came into owning a Nash Telly that I love, and it was actually pre-owned. It was previously owned by my friend James Bowman, who plays guitar for a band called Against Me,
Hmm.
and he made this particular Telly with a V neck, so like it juts out in the back. Like usually, like you get those C's that have like a little bit of an ass to them, like a little bit of a butt, but there's something to hold on to. This one, like, almost comes to, I guess, a point, but it makes your hand do this cupping that no other guitar I've ever played has made me do that, and it is so wonderful for specific types of songs, or like there's a song on this new record that I'm gonna be coming out with in about about a month and a week. But we don't. Oh wait, don't I can't say that.
Oh,
we're
don't say
we're
that.
announcing next week. Does that matter?
It won't matter.
When's this
What
coming
day
out?
are you announcing it next week?
Like the 21st, maybe.
The 21st. I could. Oh yeah, we'll be good. I'll send. Tell
We're
you what I'll
good.
do.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll sandwich another episode in between there, and then we'll be totally
Nice.
dialed. We'll be
Oh,
perfect.
sick. All right, great.
I'm not even gonna edit that out, so we're good.
Nice. All right, so there's a song on this particular record that's coming out. It's called "The Unfortunate," and it was a song that I had written acoustically months before I even thought about this record, and I thought maybe it would fit somehow in the world of my last record, but it just wasn't working. I couldn't finalize it. I needed a bridge and just needed more, and I couldn't finish the song until this guitar came into my life, which is so weird. But I'm going off on a tangent. But the way that just holding the neck of this guitar makes my hands, the shape of my hand at that moment, it just made me go to a different fingering of the chords, and I actually ended up capoing the song on the third fret. I usually play. I like things in standard tuning, but a half step down. So like I'm, E flat, tuning. But this is capoed at the third fret, and it just something about it just all the stars align kind of on this song with that guitar. So, but normally I feel like I like thinner, flatter neck. But I like to have things around that totally throw me off my game with that. You know what I mean? So like I normally wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I love like a 50s style Les Paul Jr. because it's like a baseball bat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would probably prefer like a 60s where it got a little bit thinner. Like I liked like the Melody Maker necks. Like those are a lot thinner to me, and I like that a little bit more.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting you say that. I've got a Melody Maker here, and I really like the neck on it. And I forget how much of it, and I don't know if they're all like this. This one has quite a bit of a taper to it. Like it kind of starts out on the thin side, but it gets really fat towards the 12th fret.
Towards the okay, all right, yeah. You know what? I got mine kicking around here too somewhere. Let me pull it out.
Nice.
My father-in-law and I recently built this huge shelf in my basement studio, and it's just to like kind of put all the cases up and everything like that. I hate having them on the floor and all that stuff, and I try my best to keep them in somewhat of an order. Yeah, there is a bit of a taper, but I don't feel like it gets as fat as say like one of those 50s.
Yeah.
Like even the reissue was like it's just too much, man. I don't know if my hands aren't big enough for that type of guitar, but yeah.
I don't know. I see. I should not like big necks, but I do. I have short little stubby fingers, but for some reason I like these big fatty necks, and I don't know what it is about it. It doesn't make any like physical sense at all. But I tried to play this Hegstrom one time, like this 66 Hegstrom or something, and that had the skinniest neck on it in the world. Like I don't know how any adult male like plays it, and obviously they do. Like, but right. I don't know how somebody could get their hands squished down like that. Maybe it's just a technique thing. I'm not sure.
It feels like playing on like a ukulele or something.
It felt like I was playing a pencil. It was like it was just too much for me to manage.
I hear you. I have a Hagstrom Viking that I like because it reminds me of my Casino, but I've never played like those Pat Schmear like old school ones like from when he used to play in the Germs. Like I haven't really touched any of those, but they look so cool.
They do. They look amazing.
They all look like they've been in the clubs basically for what 20, 30 years. They look like they've been bartending basically.
They probably have. They probably all have. That's the story with them. That's where they get their magic.
Yes, exactly.
So you seem to have a thing for kind of like a little bit. I don't know. You seem to have an eye for a similar eye for guitars that I do, at least aesthetically. And there was a good question that just came up in the Facebook group that I thought you might like. Blake Lawson asks, he was like, what drew you to the Epiphone Wilshire?
Oh, well, a few things, to be honest. One, I liked that I felt like the body of the Les Pauls that I was playing, like the Epiphone, I was playing like these Epiphone, I think they were called, not Ultras, but Elitist series Les Paul. So they were like real heavy wood, and I felt like for a long time I was stringing those with like 13s, and I had it was so much tension and such a heavy guitar, and I really thought, well, there's the only way I can get the tone that I want is to have this huge, like almost like albatross, like around, strapped to me, you know. And then I found the Wilshire, and I think I had been in a showroom somewhere, and they had one hanging up, and I was like, what the heck is this? I picked it up, and it just had this big tone, and it was like carrying around like like an air book. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It was so light, dude. It was so light, and it just felt. I liked that it was closer to the body. Also, too, like I'm a smaller guy. Like I have a small frame. I can't play like huge hollow body guitars, or I think they just look ridiculous on me, and it's hard for me to like wrap my arms around this thing because I'm a 5'6" basically, and I again, like I don't have like these long spindly fingers or anything like that. So I liked something that was more scaled to my body type, and the fact that I didn't have to carry around a 12-pound guitar, like that was awesome, and didn't have to lose tone. So when I first picked that up, I was like, oh man, and Epiphone had come to me and was like, what would you think about making your own? Because we had been in talks about how, like, I was like, I really love this guitar, the Les Paul, but it's killing my back, and I'm not feeling well after playing for hours and hours and hours. So they had sent me an Ultra, which was their Les Paul that was like kind of streamlined and a little bit lighter, and it was nice, but the Wilshire it was one of those things where I fell in love immediately. But I did want to make a few tweaks to it in order to kind of make it my own. And when they were open to those ideas, we ended up making the Phantomatic, which is a version of the Wilshire, and it's still my go-to guitars. There's like a few in the arsenal that I know if I'm going to a session or if I'm going on tour or something, like they need to come, and the Wilshire's just always there, man. Like the Phantomatics are, I love the guitar so much. Even if I didn't have a hand in making it, I think I would still play them almost exclusively. There's certain things where sometimes that you feel like you want like a single coil or a P90 or something like that, but different tones for different things. But it's so versatile and it's so easy to play. Like it's definitely one of those things that is just tailor made to my playing style and my body type.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think I remember watching the video. This is funny. This is a trip down memory lane for me. I remember when that first came out, and I was like, "What's a Wilshire?" Like I thought Epiphone just made Gibson copies. What's this? And that like is what led me down to finding that Epiphone had a whole bunch of original things, and actually like researched the history of Epiphone as a company. And
those are some of my favorite Epiphone guitars, like the Wilshire, the Coronet, of course, like a junior version, the ET270. Like they were great instruments,
totally.
And there was like an originality to them, that you can't deny.
Yeah. I think they're special, and I like the old Epiphone headstocks too. Like just the history of the company is so fascinating, really.
Yeah.
And just
that's the one thing is that I did shy away from that old Batwing, but only because for me it was just about one, I wanted to ensure that since we weren't making left-hand versions, it was real easy to just string upside down. And then two, I like to be able to like really quickly on stage be able to know where I'm at tuning wise, and that splitting them was was like, oh, in the dark I know I got three here, I'm good. And then also to ensure that it would be weighted correctly and not give you that dip, if you wanted to change out the tuning pegs, which I like the vintage tuners. That's just something that I like. But if sometimes you want to put like a real heavy, like maybe a Grover or like like one of those real chunky metal ones, like that'll kind of. I feel like if the Batwings will dip more on me than say like the split headstocks.
I could see that because it goes out there and it's extending in length, and so a little more
Maybe.
leverage up top. I don't know. Maybe I'm making
Something.
that up. But
I don't know. Or maybe it's in my head, but every like the guitars that I've had that were evenly balanced were splits.
And I wonder if that has to do with what you start playing, because I started out playing Les Pauls, and so I way prefer, like you do, the 3 and 3, and I think it's way easier to find with my eyes closed than it is on a 6 in line. And I've heard the
totally
exact
agree.
opposite argument from people who started out playing a 6 in line. They started on a Strat.
Oh, is that the
oh, it's so much easier to just tune on this. I don't fumble around. I feel exactly the opposite. Like, no, 3 and 3s are way easier for me. And that's what mostly I have. That's what mostly I have.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. It's that extra have to look over thing, and maybe it costs like a second or a second and a half, but that second and a half is real precious when you're on stage in the dark, waiting for like a cue to start a song or some sort of like pyro thing or anything that's happening. That second could be your ass.
It could be the end of the show as you know it. Who knows?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, other than guitars, like where do you sit with? I mean, maybe actually a better place to go would be like, how did your gear kind of change over the years, and what has led you to kind of the setup that you're using now?
Well, that's a good question. I started out out of necessity. I think my first amp setup was probably an old PA. I think it was actually a Coral, an old Coral PA head, mixed through, whatever speakers I had at the time, and then of course it moved to like I inherited some sort of bass combo amp, and then was like, oh, we'll put a metal zone through this. That's the ultimate tone. There you go.
Right.
When I actually started to get into bands, it was all right. I need to get I needed a dual channel. I wanted a dual channel, so I moved to the Marshall 900s, which I liked. And then as we progressed a little bit more and wanted a differentiation in tone, I had a couple of oranges that I really enjoyed. Now where I'm at though, I for my touring rig, I like to split. I do like a right now. What is this box I'm using? I'm using like the Radial Slingshot ABY box.
Okay. Yeah.
And I send my signal through to I have a Supro Black Magic combo and the matching extension cab, which I love, and then I'll send another channel through to like just a Fender Twin Reverb, 65 reissue kind of thing, and that in my experience has really complemented each other. Giving you a little bit more of the low end where you need it, and a little bit more shimmer on the other side. So that's been my touring rig. When I get to bigger venues, I still keep the Supro, but I have this old Sun cabinet that I love, just a 4x12, like 1990s Sun that's been with me forever. And I recently picked up it's a Music Man head. let's see. It's I just want to make sure I get the model right, and because I used it so much for this record. It's the HD 130.
Okay. Is this one of
And
the new ones, or is it one of the older ones?
No, yeah, this is older. I found it on like one of those like a Craigslist ad, and just I fell in love. Honestly, I mean, it's a beautiful amp and it screams. So I was using that mixed with I have a Fender Tone Master that I really like. So I would mix those two together for a lot of the distorted tones. My favorite distortion, like for your, not like a specialty distortion, but like your main tone distortion, is I love the Boss Blues Driver with a Keeley mod on it.
Nice.
And I use that through the Tone Master and the Music Man, kind of like mix that together a little bit. Like I have like one of those like Boss line selectors, and you kind of like shape your tone. And I'd throw like I have like an older Fender reverb tank that I'd kind of throw in front of that.
Nice. So that's
if I wanted to get real soupy, a Holy Grail.
Oh, there you go. Not
Yeah.
much in the way of pedals. For some reason I had you pegged as a pedal guy, even though I've never seen any evidence of that being the case. I just thought in my head, well, he's probably into pedals too, but not so much. Oh, you are.
No. Oh, I am. Yeah. No.
Tell me more.
Those are like, as far as like, yeah. Well, all right. So I love that. If you're just talking like a main for your main tone, right? I like to throw a little bit of chorus on my distorted tone from time to time. It gives you that for certain songs it has like a bouncy nature, you know what I mean? It doesn't hollow it out. I don't know how to describe it, but it really walks the fine line of like this weird digital almost waviness, that I like to hear on certain songs, especially on leads. And then I've been using this full tone fat boost, the FB3, and I think it's awesome. It's a great pedal. You can kind of add in bass and treble as needed. There's a little bit of a drive to it, but you can really boost your volume with it, and it doesn't color the sound more than you need it to. That makes sense.
It does.
So if you feel like you're, in need of I just want a little bit more warmth to this, but I don't want to change, the overall tone of it. You can throw this pedal on, and it's really helpful. So that's going on my board for this next tour. Other than that, I like the Micropog. For certain leads, you're going to hear a lot of that on the new record. OCD is always something to have, for solos and things like that. I love the Holy Grail for any extra reverb. I used a lot of the Earthquaker stuff for some specialty tones, the Afterneath and Ghost Echo.
Yes.
They have a new pedal, the Aqueduct, that I used a little bit on the new record. I like that a lot. There's also the Fuzzrocious stuff is unreal.
Like, my man.
That 420 fuzz.
Yes.
Dude, unreal. The 420 fuzz might be my favorite new distortion that's come out in the past 10 years. It's crazy. And I love that it has that gated breakup to it. It's fantastic.
I love them.
Those are my go-tos.
Yeah, I have so much love for the Fuzzrocious family over here. Ryan's one of my favorite people, and his pedals are awesome.
So great to work with too, man. And I love that it's a family company, and they just, they do great things. Seriously. He makes fantastic stuff. I have a lot of his stuff, and it's all over the record. The Gray Stash is on there. I think there's some Demon on there, and there might be even Cat King and a Moth on there as well at certain moments. We use them on bass too, and they work. That's a great thing about his his pedals, they work for both guitar and for bass. You know, that you don't lose that low end, which you do a lot on a lot of different say like overdrives by different companies and stuff like that. You're gonna lose that that underneath,
Yep.
and you don't with Fuzz Roches. Seriously.
Well, yeah, Ryan, he's primarily a bass player by, as far as background goes. So that's always something that he has tried to pay attention to and make things work for, what he does as well. So it's
and
great people.
Well, he nailed it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Some people like go for that and you're like, oh, well, yeah, all right. but
Right.
they're like he nailed it.
You also have a Kyber, right?
I do. Yes, the Kyber too. Oh yeah. I love that. I think that pedal is awesome. I love having a little bit of a tremolo effect.
That's how we got talking in the first place. That's right. That's what I remember.
Exactly. Here's the thing. Even if it wasn't a great pedal, which it is a great pedal, you have a light up lightsaber on there. I'm in. You know what I mean?
Well, then you add it's a laser sword. I don't know if it's necessarily a lightsaber.
That's
per
what. Yes,
se.
It's a
laser sword.
Right.
Yeah, I would never want to incur the wrath.
No. Yes, please don't. So that's nice. Anytime there's a laser sword involved, but also it's a fantastic distortion, and I love the glitch effect. It's just. It works so well with so many things, and that actually makes an appearance on the record as well. So, it's a fantastic pedal. I love the glitch effect. I love adding a little bit of tremolo to distortions, and you guys really nailed. Ed too. Ed Chu did a great job, like adding in that glitch, and it feels versatile the way that you can dial that in, and it's a great looking pedal too. I mean,
it's all Ed. Work. We just had like the general concept. It's all Ed. Ed's the man. Nice. Ed over at Wrought Iron. For people who are wondering what we're talking about, Wrought Iron Effects. Ed Chu is amazing, and he's been on the show before. So,
nice, very cool.
So, what pedals were you using back in the day? Like when you kind of first got going, or when you were first touring around?
So, when I first started, it was a lot of Boss effects, the tremolo, which I still have on my board, super chorus, some flange was in there for specialty tones, and I had the Pi Big Muff on the board.
Okay, yeah.
And then I moved over to the Way Huge effects, and I like the Swollen Pickle a lot. I felt like I could get a little bit more diversity on it tone wise, and let's see, what else was I using back then? I have this like an old fuzz face that my dad had given me that I still love to use, but I don't tour with anymore. And that's just because it's so old that it doesn't hold up all the time. Sometimes it wants to work and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I feel you. And plus, it's kind of special. You don't want to lose that out on the road somehow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, here's a question. And if you can answer this for me, this would be so helpful. But how come I can't find replacement parts like those little screw for the edges of like the Boss pedals that clamp them down? You know what I'm talking about? That little black screw and the grommets that go inside. I've had to Frankenstein so many pedals just trying to like put like new shields on and steal like those little things. I don't know what you call them, like I guess little hand screws for years. Do you know anybody that makes them?
No, I don't know anybody that like just makes direct replacements, but I do know some people at Boss, and I'm sure that they know where to get them. Yes.
You would think. I feel like this is like a $10 idea.
Yeah, because everyone knows that the most important thing is that the tone is in the screws.
Yeah, well,
That's
here's the thing: if you can't turn it on, then yeah, it is apparently.
that's
It's
a
like
very
having a,
valid point.
it's like having a car, and it's like, oh, this is the best car ever, but the steering wheel is held on by old gum.
Yes.
You know, yeah, and it's like, oh, all right, well, can I get more old gum? They're like, oh no, you can't get new old gum.
No,
You
no.
just have to buy a new car.
Yeah, and by the way, this same new car also is held together with old gum.
Oh
So,
yeah. No, yeah, we haven't changed anything, but you have to get a new one. That's where we're
well,
at.
well, you know what? I'll put some feelers out and I'll see if I can't get a supply of extra Boss pedal side screw things sent to your way,
Oh
and
man. Yeah,
we'll see what
seriously,
we'll
that
see
would
what we
be
can do.
unreal. It happened again with me because, like, I am because I'm 37 years old and I have a family and a wife and a house, and my cabinet doors in my kitchen are all held together with like this hinge that is a very nice hinge. It seems very workable to me. But the thing about it is there's a small plastic piece inside that when that snaps off, the door just opens up automatically at all times. And it's like, so
Hmm.
can you replace this? No, you just have to buy new hinges, but you have to buy like 100 of them. It's like, yes, it's just a reoccurring thing that happens in my life, which I
They
find
they
funny.
they always know how to get you. They're always
Yeah,
coming for your wallet somehow.
and you have to order the hinges from Boss.
What?
Yeah, no,
What?
they got their
I've
hands
told
in
this.
all the things.
The old Roland overlords,
Yeah.
cabinet doors and everything. I have a no. I've told this story on the podcast before. I think I can't remember. I talk on the internet a lot, and I can never remember where I've talked to who. But you might get a kick out of the fact that I accidentally tried to steal Yoshi's Uber. Yoshi being the president of Boss at
Really?
NAM. Yeah, we were at a get together for a bunch of pedal builders and stuff, and we both called a Uber, and we're like, oh, there's our Uber. It's a black Toyota Corolla, and we just walked up and like started getting in, and some guy comes out. He's like, no, that's my car, and it was just some guy I didn't recognize, and then. And then, like, right behind him was Yoshi, who I did recognize and had talked to a little bit. I was like, "Oh, sorry, Yoshi-san, I didn't mean to steal your Uber." Like that was we were like climbing in and everything, and then like a couple minutes later, ours arrived, which was also a black Toyota Corolla. So
Oh,
check the
that's
license plate on your
uh,
Uber, everyone.
yeah. Or unless you like being kidnapped, also, because that happens. I think
Oh,
a
geez,
similar
does it
thing
really?
happened to me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was like a thing happening recently where uh, people were hacked into an app. I don't know if it was specifically Uber, of course, or if it was like Lyft or one of those rideshare programs. But they were hacking in, finding out if it was like a girl or a guy that was requesting the car, what their age somehow through this app, and then sending like a dummy car to pick them up, and then like kidnapping them and like taking them into different really like scary places and stuff like that. Yeah, it was really messed up. Like that was happening for a while. But a similar thing, not to the being kidnapped, but stealing somebody else's stuff, happened to me yesterday. Where I have this thing where if I order food or things, I always if I like go get coffee at Starbucks, I always give the same name. I say that I'm Steve. Because
Okay.
I've never met anyone else named Steve, but I know it's a common name. But at the same time, like I've never met these Steves, so that's just the name I always give. Because for some reason nobody can understand when I say Frank, they always put Brian, and then I get confused.
Oh, okay.
So
What?
yeah, I don't know. It's really weird.
Brian?
Yeah. Somehow, whenever I say, they go, "Oh, what's your name?" I go, "Oh, Frank," and they go like, "Oh, Brian," and they put it in, and then they call Brian, and I don't know who Brian is. So, but when I say Steve, they always know it's Steve. So I just go with Steve. And so yesterday I went and ordered food. My wife and I were going to smuggle food into the movies, and
Of
so
course.
like you do. And so I was like, for Steve, please. And she's like, okay, great. And then the food got ready, and she's like, they called Steve. I have two Steves. And then I was like, oh my god. And then the other Steve came up, and he was like, what did you order? And I was like, what did you order, Steve? And I was like, it was such a weird moment where I finally met the other Steve, and we had to like dig through each other's meals to like, anyway, it was probably nothing like what happened to you, but it was very strange to me.
It's actually very similar. I could see that. But
Yes.
that is what a way to meet a Steve.
And he
You've
was a
never
black
met
Toyota.
Steve.
So, all right, no.
Oh, it wasn't even a guy. It was a black Toyota
it was
named
crazy.
Steve.
Yeah.
Weird. That's funny. So did you like track that Steve down, and did you ask him like, "Hey, is your name really Steve? Because mine's not."
I kind of wanted to, but at the same time, we were late for the movie.
Okay. Well,
yeah, but he looked like a badass. I was like, oh, all right, I guess Steves are badasses. Perfect. I'm still.
you don't want to mess. You don't want to mess with.
You don't want to mess with a Steve. Yeah.
No.
Unless it's Gutenberg.
You never know. I would mess with Steve Gutenberg a little bit, to be honest. I feel like we could hang.
I feel like a couple of years ago, I saw a picture of Steve Gutenberg, and he got jacked like Carrot Top. Like, those dudes are huge now. Yeah, it's kind of scary.
I didn't know Steve Gutenberg was hitting the iron.
This is just from a photo that I've seen, but I think it's like, like these people that like were kind of like, picked on or jokes, even though they were like really, really popular. They became like the butts of jokes, and I feel like they took that on and like went to like a UFC gym, and now they're huge, and you don't want to make fun of them.
I mean, that's one way to go about it. Like, you can't. I mean, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Carrot Top. Look at his prop humor," and he just chokes you out. Like,
exactly. You
don't want to be on the receiving end of Carrot Top's.
Like, and he actually has like pieces of cauliflower taped to his head because he has cauliflower ears. And you're like, oh no! And that's the last thing you see before you black out.
It sounds like you got a lot of things that go through that head of yours, don't you? This is amazing. I knew this was going to be a good conversation. I'm going back to that Facebook thread to see if anybody's saying anything that's not nonsense. Let's go in here. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is kind of interesting. I'll try to paraphrase some of this.
Okay.
Tyler Aldridge, he wants to know, he's like, coming from a band like MCR and like kind of doing your own thing, do you try to kind of embrace that was like your old project, or do you try to really separate them, or how do you kind of process that?
Well, I think it's weird. Like, I think that it only gets to be an obstacle when people like compare and contrast projects, like musically, and I think that's hard to do when you start things that sound so different, but yeah, it's nothing that I've ever shied away from. And also too, I feel like even when I was doing my camp, like here's the thing, I've always been in band, like I've always started bands, I've always done side projects and different things. I very rarely say no. Like when something comes up that sounds really interesting to me and feels like a challenge, I immediately say yes, whether I have the time to do it or not. So I did a band called Leathermouth while my chem was together. I did some stuff with Reggie in the Full Effect. Yeah, I've just always done it, So when my chem ended, I just immediately started writing songs, and I did a band called Death Spells with my friend James. And then I had this record, and I went out on tour, and it was just like, I guess this is just what I do, So I never felt like I had to separate. It was just like, all right, this is one chapter, this is another, and one kind of, although some might have similar members or have similarities because, you came from all of these things, they're not connected. Does that make sense?
It totally does. Yeah, it definitely does. You try to treat each project as its own entity, and give it its own life.
Never ever did I want to use like one project as a springboard for anything else. Like I never felt like just because you did this doesn't mean that this project doesn't have to start from ground zero and build itself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that never made sense to me. So I was always like, all right, well, you just get to. It's like it's a lot like Monopoly. you buy like a new property and you immediately have to like, start building that. You have to buy all of them, and then put houses and then hotels. Just because you have hotels on one of them doesn't mean that you can, immediately buy Baltic and put a hotel on it. You know what I mean? Doesn't work that way. So,
No, I got you.
Yeah, I just always felt like, this is, ever since I was a little kid, I just wanted to be in bands and write songs and do that. And I'll do it to the day I die until, I physically can't do it anymore. And it's, it's one of those things. It's like breathing. I have to do it. Have to.
I do understand that. Like, music is it's a really powerful thing, and it impacts a lot of people. And I'm sure you've seen, you've seen the pretty extreme ends of that, of like how many people it can reach and impact in different ways. And have you ever had any like moments where some people reached out to you and told you things that it was just kind of like, whoa, like I didn't,
Oh,
we're just writing songs here, like,
yeah,
or anything like that?
absolutely. It's pretty spectacular when things like that happen, or like you get to travel to a country that you never thought you'd ever see, let alone get to play, and then there's hundreds or thousands or even 5 people there that don't speak your language but know the words to your song and have an experience related to that song that you wrote in your basement back in New Jersey, like that. That's the stuff that they write movies about or write novels about. Like that's not stuff that happens in real life, but in fact it does. And every time it happens, it blows my mind. It's total dream come true.
Yeah, that's more than you could ask for, especially when you were starting out as a little kid. Actually, I don't really know your story. Like, how did you get like really started? That's normally where I lead with questions on this show, but we went somewhere else. So like when you were how did you get started with music? Yeah, we went to Carrot Top first. We had to get to Carrot Top and Steve G before we could get to the really heavy stuff.
Well, for me, my dad was a drummer and my grandfather was a drummer, and they just always played. So when on the weekends when I would visit them, it was just talking about gigs and guys that they played with and this or that. And at night, I would either go see my dad play at like a bar or wherever he was playing. I mean, sometimes he would do shows like at the Trenton War Memorial with B.B. King and Robert Cray, and sometimes he'd be playing like the local haunt, blues club. If I wasn't allowed to go with my dad because of whatever, I would go with my grandfather, and he would play Dixieland jazz quartet at an old speakeasy in South Jersey. And so I was just always around it, and if I got to stay up really, really late, I could then go, if I was with my grandfather, I would go to the diner with the band afterwards. And I became like this mascot kind of thing where, like he's with the band, even, like they would say like, oh no, he's just like, he's not underage. He's just really small kind of thing, I like put a fedora on my head or whatever and sunglasses and I would just hang out. So I started that way. And then I just knew I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to play shows. I wanted to have that date book that my dad and my grandfather had. I wanted to have these stories that I heard at the dinner table, I wanted to affect people. And so I went through instruments. I played a little piano. I tried to play saxophone. I played drums. And then eventually I found the guitar and realized that I could really, this was something that could be mine that, my dad and my grandfather didn't do. I didn't have to live up to the level that they were at, but I could do it on my own and I could write songs with it. And so I started playing guitar. I taught myself a couple of chords, and then as soon as I knew like 3 chords, I wrote a song. You know what I mean? And then I tried to learn another song or learn another chord, and I'd write another song. It sounded just like the other one, but I had a new chord in it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I just kept doing that, and doing it. And then I turned 11, and I met this kid on my baseball team who also played guitar, but he knew that I kind of played drums, so we started a band. And that was it. I was hooked. Eventually, I was 13, got into high school. There was a senior there. His name was John McGuire, who I'm still friends with to this day. And he was like, "Hey, I heard you play guitar." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I'm coming over to your house later tonight, and to see if you can really play guitar." So he came over. He was like, "Oh, you know chords and stuff." I was like, "Yeah, I know like 4 of them." He's like, "All right, well, we're in a band together, and in a month we got a show." And so I played my first show as a freshman at the high school, but I wasn't. It was like a junior ring dance thing, so I wasn't old enough to stay, but I could play the show. And that was it. I was like, this is my life. I'm going on tour. I don't care about school. Like, I'm in. I played my first show. I'm a professional, and and I'm going. And I just, that was it, man. I just started bands, um, and I ended up playing a lot of like punk bands as a kid. Played with the Casualties, and all the local, like punk rock bands or whatever. Like I figured out that I could put on shows and book my favorite bands, and then I could play with my favorite bands. So I was like, "Oh, this is great."
That's not bad. That's
Yeah,
cool.
do that kind of stuff. Went on shows at like local VFWs and things of that nature, and then I eventually started a band called Pensy Prep with that guy John McGuire from my high school. Years and years later, we signed to Eyeball, and we put out a record. And then eventually, my chem came around, and we had a studio. We shared the studio together. Pensy broke up. My chem asked me to join. We made a record, and then I've been touring ever since.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
As they say, is history.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I'm sure you're aware of it, but coming from it from my perspective as a listener and a fan of the band, are you like? It comes up pretty regularly in the forums and the Facebook groups that I run in. That like it'll be like once every 6 months, people are like, "Hey, do you guys know that the Black Parade is one of the best records of all time?" And people are all either like, "Yes, definitely," or like, "No way, no way."
Right.
But it's like definitely a thing. Like, it's definitely a thing amongst the age group and demographic that that is my age group and demographic, I suppose. Like, I think it's one of the greatest records. It was certainly formative for me and gave me as a punk rock kid, it gave me an appreciation for an appreciation for classic rock, and like led me to go back and check out more Queen and things like that.
That's awesome.
But was that like an intentional thing, or did you guys realize what you were doing when you were doing that, or did it just kind of happen?
No, it was intentional. Well, here's the thing. I think it was intentional in that we knew that where we were going, we were headed, well, at least we thought wasn't going to be understood or appreciated by where we had come from. And there was this crossroads where we were like, all right, listen, we can, we made a record that people like, that more people than we ever thought could ever like our band like, and we want to do this. We want to go farther with it because we don't fit in anywhere else. So we might as well just, make the record that we've always wanted to make. And then it's like, all right, well, in doing that, you run the risk of totally alienating all these people that have just found out about your band, and that's a hard decision. It's like, oh man, like, do you play it safe? Do you write the record that you think everybody wants you to make? Or do you just say, we never thought we would have this opportunity, so we're just going to do what we want to do. And the worst comes to worst, we can tell our grandkids that we rolled the dice and we did it, And that's what we did. We're like, hey man, we got one shot at this. So we're going to go completely nuts and make a crazy record that references all the places that we came from, all the things that influenced us, all the bands that were flamboyant and took the risks and made these crazy imaginative records that people just aren't doing anymore. And so we met Rob Cavallo. We explained what we wanted to do. We had these songs, and he basically gave us the confidence that we could pull this off. That even though people might not understand it, they might not like it. go for it. And that's what we did, man. And when I started to hear these, these songs come to life, like become real boys, like basically like through the
Yeah.
speakers, it was like one of those things where like, oh man, like, yeah, people are going to hate this. They might hate this, but I don't care. Like this is
You were like,
everything
we
we've
love
ever
it.
wanted to
Yeah.
try. Yeah. And I was like, here's the thing. People tend, or at least at that time, right? I felt like people tend to hate what's different. That's the way things go. They get scared of it. They don't know how to, they don't understand it. And so the immediate reaction is, I hate it.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
like, but you have to understand, like, this is our third record, but really, like, like you got big. So like, it's really thought of as your like the sophomore slump. I was like, so if people are going to hate it anyway, whether you do the record that they want to hear or not, like, we might as well just make the record we want to hear. And that was the thought process behind it. And when hearing it all back, it was like, to me, it was undeniable that even though it was different, even though it was maybe not the record that people expected, it was something that was really, really special, and couldn't be replicated by any other band.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of thing is impossible to predict, obviously, but like I think it had I think it had the opposite effect. I mean, yeah, some of like maybe the hardcore guys that were into the old sound maybe hated it, but I think what it did is I think it brought you a whole bunch of new people. I remember showing
It did.
one of my friends was he was our bass player, and he was like more into hardcore stuff. And I was like, check this song out. And I think it was Teenagers. And I was like, who is that? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, that's my Kim, dude. And he's like, whoa. And he listened to that record. He's like, this is great. I think it actually like roped in people who were otherwise maybe a little bit skeptical, honestly. I believe that.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Like, the reaction that we got from that record was unbelievable. I really didn't think people were going to get it the way that they did. And then it turned into a thing where globally it got very polarizing, and you felt like you were really affecting the world in a way, in a positive way, like creating dialogue about things, giving people confidence to be the people that they were. And you felt like things were changing, and it was huge, man. That record became bigger than the band, than any one member, any people involved. It was just like, I don't know, I even know how to describe it, because like, even being involved in it, it felt like it got away from us, and that's what, ultimately what you would aspire to do is to write something that takes flight and can stand on its own 2 feet and just become it's a living, breathing entity, and go out there and evolve and change and become, the ownership is relinquished from it's not your songs anymore. It just becomes everyone's. And that's an incredible thing to be a part of.
That's amazing. I can't hardly imagine something like that. But I get what you're saying about, art becoming more than just the artist's own. Like, I've heard people say that like art doesn't truly become art until it's out in public. And I don't necessarily know that I fully agree with that, but I do understand the concept behind it, because it does become, partially owned by the consumer in some way, at least emotionally. And I think that's what you're kind of describing there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's not that it's not art until it's released. What it is that's the final stage.
Okay.
I used to think that you write it and it's just for you, and it could sit there, or it could be out in the world, and it doesn't matter. But then I started to realize that final stage is when it becomes someone else's, and then they are affected by it, and what they make from it that's so integral and so amazing. Like that's what art truly is the dialogue, not just between you and someone that's experienced it, but between that person that's experienced it and the rest of the world. Does that make sense?
It totally does. I think it even things that don't go like crazy huge successful, I do think that it has a capability to change a person's life in some way or another, whether it's the
Yes.
consumer of the art or the artist. I do think that these pieces of things that everybody's working on, everyone's pouring their heart and soul into it, whether it's music or something else, I do think it has an outsized impact that is really hard to measure a lot of times.
Absolutely. It's that pebble in a pond thing where, you think, this pebble is your voice, and then it hits, and those ripples go out, and it can go, forever, basically, and then changes the whole landscape of what you drop that pebble into. Um, it's an amazing thing, and then seeing what other people, how they change and what they start to do because of what you've done. It's that drug, basically, that feeling that you get is unmatched, and you continuously chase that, like, to want to do even more better things, more positive things that will create a dialogue that will eventually make it back to you somehow.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, like those things that go out there, reach people. The crazy thing to me is that there's a new crowd now that's finding out about bands that I've been in, and of course, some of those bands aren't playing anymore, but they're just finding out about it now, and it's affecting them in a way, and they're going out and creating things, and that's huge. Like, to see what has now come because of the things that I had a hand in, it's unbelievable.
That's I could totally see that. If, work you've done in the past, inspiring others to maybe pick up an instrument or buy a white Les Paul or something,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I'm not kidding, man. Not to throw it back to that. I mean, years, like, I was looking for a white Les Paul, and it all comes back. Like, there's other influences, obviously, but it all comes back to that. I was like, I want one of those. And I remember telling my dad
That
and my
rules.
friends and everybody else, like, gotta get a white Les Paul. Man,
That's my tone.
to bring it all back, because supposedly this is a gear-based podcast, I'm told.
Of course.
It doesn't generally stick that way, when that's totally fine. But one thing I do like to ask guys like you that have been in successful bands and have, quote unquote, made it as far as the general public's concerned. What do you have any advice for young musicians or musicians just starting out that have the kind of the same aspirations?
Oh, man. Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't have the end all be all secret to to making, or to be heard, or to get signed, or get on a show. Like, people ask that a lot. Like, how did you do it? Like, what can I do to, like, do this? And I don't have that. No one does. It's different for everybody.
Totally.
And a lot of it's luck. But a lot of it is also kind of playing and writing from the heart. Like, if you're full of shit and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, everyone can tell. You know what I mean? Like, it's even if they can't tell right away, it will be known. So the best thing that you can do is to do it because you have to do it. Because very rarely is it going to love you back. And you
Okay.
have to be okay with that. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like, this is
that's interesting.
a very hard relationship to be in. You give everything, whether it be mental, emotional, physical, financially. Like, very rarely does it ever give you back. And you have to be totally fine with that. You have to be at that point where you're like, you know what? Just to play a gig at the local bar and to play these songs, I'd still probably sell a kidney. Like, if you're at that point, then you're in the club, you got bit, you're cool, you got to keep going. And you have to do it because you have to do it, not because you feel like you're going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, that's something I can relate to. I've said this a lot on this podcast, but I've never started out in music with the intent to go be in a band and do the touring thing and all that. However, like
Mhm.
I definitely had songs that I needed to write and record and get out, and I'm like, I don't care if like 2 people listen to this. This is just something that needs to
There
come
you
out
go.
of myself, and I think a lot of people have that, and I think not enough people actually kind of they think they have to go big or go home. You can just like write songs and put them
No.
out there if you need to, and
Yeah,
because it is a
totally.
need thing for
And
a
the
lot
world's
of
a
us.
better place because of it. I totally feel
Totally.
that. The world is a better place because you really felt so strongly that you had to record this song and put it out there.
Mhm.
That to me is so valid. Like that's one of the most important things in the world. We need more of that. As opposed
I
to, oh, I think me mumbling this one line over and over again is going to sell 1,000,000 copies.
right. Well, sometimes it does, but whatever. That's
Yeah, well, yeah.
it's neither here nor there. But we are getting down to kind of the last home stretch here for the main
Okay.
episode, and I wanted to know if you had anything else you gotta anything else you just want to tell people. Like it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be, it can be anything, quite literally anything you might want to say to just that you don't just get to say all the time.
Oh my.
I know I'm putting you on the
Jeez.
spot. I know that's
I
a
know. I
rough
feel
one.
like I'm on this. I feel like, oh no, this is a trap. what, what am I going to say that I don't say all the time that's going to get me in trouble? Jeez.
Oh, it doesn't. You
Um,
don't have to get in trouble. I don't want anybody. We'll edit it out
no,
if
no,
it's
no,
going
no.
to get you in
That
trouble.
that's how I get in trouble though. Not just I love doing things like this, like conversations about um, musicality. How you get certain things, like um, what interests you tonally, and I feel like that kind of stuff doesn't get talked about a lot. You know,
Hmm.
and as far as like me and my friends and the dudes that like I'm in bands with, like we nerd out about that kind of shit because nobody else cares to ask, and we don't get to talk about it enough. So this is just, it's so much fun for me to like you find those kindred spirits along the way of like that, like that geeks out about art or geeks out about gear or geeks out about comics or stuff like that. Like it's so much fun to do this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for reaching out and asking me to do this. Um, but I'm excited for people to get to hear this new record that I'm doing because I feel like this time around too, I really feel like you get to hear me experiment and branch out tonally. This is like the first record too that Stomach Aches I did basically kind of by myself in my basement, and so in a way I produced that record, but I didn't have all the things that I wanted at my disposal. It was very much like working within my boundaries to record it and things of that nature. But this was the first time that I got to work with an engineer and fully produce a record myself, with basically a genius at the helm who could help me chase whatever it is I wanted to chase. And so I'm really excited for that to kind of just live out in the world and to feel like I can finally be like, yeah, man, I did that. After all these years, like I'm still kind of surprised with myself, and I like that a lot because the stuff that scares the hell out of me is the stuff that I want to do, and I think that's what this record's really about.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to hear it. I think that's gonna be it's gonna be awesome. I'm just really excited about it. So thanks for coming on and hanging out and talking about it. And you're obviously welcome back anytime, whenever. So
Anytime you free up storage on your computer.
that's right. Anytime you have a couple gigs to spare, come back
Right?
on.
Yeah.
I could nerd out for hours with you. So thank you very much for doing
That
this.
sounds
This has
great,
been
man.
awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll get on the label sending you a copy of the record. Hopefully sooner than later. All right.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That's amazing. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
I do have one last question for you though for this for the main part of this episode, and this is the heavy like
Uh-oh.
big stuff.
Okay.
So I hope you're comfortable. But
Yes,
the
go.
question is, what kind of pizza do you like?
Ooh, all right. I am lactose intolerant, so I like vegan cheese pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But also one of my favorite toppings is black olives, and I know a lot of people that's a very divisive topping, but
Mm-hmm.
I really like black olives. I also like any kind of like a vegan-y sausage type thing. Like one of my favorite pizzas is the Daya meatless meat lover supreme. I like that a lot.
Meatless meat lover supreme.
Um,
All right.
Yeah, but this is very important. When that is done, the toppings that go on top, right? Like that aren't supplied in the box, right? Has to be black pepper, red pepper flakes, garlic, and dill.
Dill. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting move.
I know.
There.
Telling you.
I think I could get on. I can get on board with that spice combo. I see how
You
that
gotta
could
try
work.
it. It's pretty. And one day I was having pizza and I was like, this would be amazing if I can incorporate pickles somehow.
Yes.
And I found that if you just use a little bit of dried dill, but I like to do it like before I make the pizza because then it like kind of rehydrates a little bit and you get that
Mhm.
flavor in there. But it's huge, very very imperative to have some dill at your disposal when making the pizzas. I would love for this to be like a New York style pizza where they just made it for me, but unfortunately, not everywhere carries like the vegan toppings and cheeses that I require. So I'm left to go with the frozen stuff a lot of the times, but that allows me to put on my own spices.
Gotcha. I gotcha. I could get on board with that. I the dill. I could see that being a little controversial, but I'm down with it. My next question on
Telling
the
you.
same vein is what do you like for the crust thickness? You like a thinner crust, or how do you go about that?
I'm New York style. I like a thinner crunch. You know,
I'm with you on that.
that's I grew up there, and that's the way to go. I understand why people like a deep dish type thing. Just not my deal. Not my deal.
Yeah,
That
I
I don't
gotcha.
feel like that's pizza. That's more like a weird tomato pie of sorts.
Yeah, like a casserole almost.
Yeah, it's like a shepherd's a shepherd's pie or so. I don't know. Like it's it's too. It runs that weird, runs that fine line of like pastry-ish. Yeah, it's too much. It's just too much.
I feel like, and I haven't been to Chicago to like try to experience it, and I'm holding my reservations until I do, or my holding my judgment until I do rather, and I look at it and I go, that looks tasty, but it doesn't look like what I want when I want pizza. That looks like something else.
No, yeah, it. I understand. I get it. It just it seems like too much work. Like you know what I mean? You can't eat 6 slices of that. You just
No,
can't. It's impossible.
you'll
No.
die.
That's like, yeah, I'm a little full after this quarter of a slice. It's like I don't want that. Nobody
No.
wants that.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not getting wasted in the city at 3 a.m. than going for like 6 slices of deep dish pizza. That's a problem. You know what I
That
mean?
sounds like a recipe
there's
for
no way.
disaster.
Yeah.
Well, man, yeah, just thanks again for coming on. This was a lot of fun, and you're definitely welcome back anytime. So,
Such a
thank
pleasure,
you.
man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, this was a blast, man, and I would love to do it again. Seriously.
We'll put it on the books. We'll make it happen maybe after the
right.
tour or the record or something.
Very cool. Yeah, hopefully I'll be out your way. Probably this summer or something like that.
Oh, that'd be rad. That'd be super rad. I can show you the spots.
Dope. All right, I'm in.
All right, cool. All right, everybody. For Frank, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Man, I had such a great time there. I don't know if you could tell, but I was really, really having a blast talking with Frank. And make sure you guys check out the new record he's got coming out, Or it's out. Technically, it's out. Yes, it's out. At least it's out for pre-order now. That's right. That's the deal. It's out for pre-order right now, and it's called Barriers. It's by Frank Iero and the Future Violence. Album's called Barriers, so make sure you guys check it out. I think we're all gonna really get a treat out of that one. That'll be really fun. So yeah, let's see. Other than that, don't forget to, check us out. Like, if you enjoyed this episode, we got more coming. If you want to know like a little more about, how your favorite artists interact with their gear, what kind of gear they use, how they think about things, or just you want to hear them on the show, maybe you got to send them my way. I hit people up all the time. Sometimes we don't get response. Sometimes we do. If there's somebody you'd really like to get on the show, the best way to do that is to tell them you'd like to hear them on the show. So that's always a good thing. If you want to get a hold of me, email me at info@tonemob.com or hit me up on any of the socials. I'm easy to get a hold of. So, I don't necessarily respond immediately, but I definitely try to respond to everybody. So hit me up whenever you can. And I'll do my best to help. Other than that, if you could hit us up on iTunes. It's been a little while since I asked for reviews, but if we could get some new reviews, that always helps. That helps boost us up. That helps more people find the show. That helps us keep doing what we're doing. Tell your friends, tell your families, tell whoever you think might be interested in these conversations. That would be awesome. And again, thank you so much. I know there's a million things you could be listening to right now, and you chose this, and you chose to listen this far, which is insane. So thank you very much. And yeah, last but not least, right? That's the thing I'm supposed to say. Last but not least, we have Patreon. So if you want more of these kind of conversations, if you want to hear more content, you want to hear more blabbing about guitars and music and aliens and stuff, then you can go to Patreon for as little as $5 a month. You're going to get an extra episode. Extra? My voice is not working. Why do I do these late at night? I don't know. Anyways, for $5 a month, you get extra episodes every week coming straight at you, and you can download them, you can listen to them, you can enjoy them at your leisure. It's just more of this, which who wouldn't want more of this? I can't imagine. But seriously, that's where to go for all that, and there's some other tiers with other various levels that kind of, they'll make a lot more sense. You go to patreon.com/tonemob, you'll see all the details. And yeah, just keep on keeping on. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll talk to you next week. Bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.